Watercolors. Sorry for the adjusting right there. Um, in front of me, I have a quarter sheet of Stonehenge Aqua. I just passed some water over it with the Hake brush, and a little bit off screen, I don't think you can really see it, there is my Kindle, and I just pulled up a picture of a barn off of Pexels.com, P-E-X-E-L-S. It's just a free imaging, copyright-free website, or royalty-free website. So I'm just going to use the reference of a barn to try to create a vignette. Not really sure the correct pronunciation, but I'm just going to play around with it and have fun. So I haven't done a barn scene in too long, a long time. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my raw sienna in the sky, and I'm going to kind of outline where I'm going to put the barn, as if this was the sky and it was doing a negative painting to show the shape of the barn itself. I didn't do any sketching. Everything's wet. I don't have anything masked off, so this is the way I'm going to go about doing it. I'm going to take wet and wet, I put it in the sky, and then what I'm most likely going to do is lift out the shape of the barn itself. And the barn's just there for a little bit of reference. I'm probably going to deviate from the structure itself. Maybe making it a little bit too big, the barn, but we'll see. So it's just kind of a, hey, I want to paint and what do I want to experiment with? I'm kind of just diving right into this. I have a little bit of ultramarine blue. Use the spray bottle to try to get rid of brush strokes. Let's see. I'm going to put some trees in here. Ultramarine blue. Let's mix it with have a little bit of lemon yellow, so we get a green. I'm going to tone down the green with a little bit of raw sienna, burnt sienna. And it'll be in this area. So it's wet and wet. I may come back in with a little bit more texture on top of it. I'm not sure. This will be the side of the barn. And this is, you could look outside, and we'll see. Just flatten this paper out. Now, the foreground, the front of the barn, about here. And like I said, I'm just using it as a reference and kind of just going on the fly. But I think with time, pencil, pen, and paper, and just kind of sketching out ideas, you could probably come out with a really cool composition. think I'm also experimenting with the vignette concept here, vignette concept. If anybody could link to the correct pronunciation, I'd appreciate that. You could comment down below. And what that is, it's when you don't go all the way to the edges with the painting. In a book by Ron Ranson on Edgar Whitney, he had a rule for vignettes, and it was something like cover 1/3 or 2/3 of the edge of a paper. It has something to do with that. That's something we'll pull out another day. This is just paint to paint. Raw sienna. Here. Cool thing is, it's wet and wet. Like this is all wet right here, and you see a little bit of movement. But since the barn's gonna be dark, I probably don't even need to clean up that edge with a paper towel. Is what I was gonna do, is lift in that fashion. I might do in a few spots just to show you, but this will be something we'll explore with other compositions. We'll do some more barn work. Somebody on the Patreon account had asked about barn stuff, and I had done some in the background, and I think I did a little bit of midground. Then I did the painting of the local restaurant, and I did do a local house, but here's just a straight up barn. A lot of reference photos online, and I want to darken this, and I'll try to take some around town because there's a lot of barns, old barns in my area. This is burnt umber, just feeding it in. Ultramarine. Just plain, just keeping it like bright and cheery. And it's one of the palettes that I use. It's the Ron Ranson palette, which is a limited palette. It's not really my tonalist one, but you can achieve a lot of cheeriness with it. I mean, we could go all the way and just feed in alizarin crimson. Just make it fun. You can definitely do that in the foreground and just say you have a whole bunch of different flower beds. Yeah, let's feed light red oxide. I guess, what are they, poppies that are blooming this time of year? I don't think we have any in Louisiana, but my friend's mother was up in New York, had posted pictures of a poppy blooming. Let's put a little bit of ultramarine in. I think I'm just going to avoid Payne's Gray for right now. May not even use it at all, this painting. We'll see. Bring it down to this corner. Okay, now with the barn, there's a few different ways I can go about doing it. Like I said, I can take and kind of clear up that edge. I'm not sure how well that's showing up. All I am is just pressing along it with a relatively straightened piece of paper towel to pull up the moisture there. And it's the wet and wet. I could do a complete dry off, but I do want to play a little bit in wet and wet in this stage. I could have also did a little masking fluid line. You could also put masking tape to get a line right there. There's a whole bunch of things you can do to separate that. So I'm going to take the hake, and for this I'm going to use a mixture of ultramarine and burnt umber. This is a fantastic mixture, like a classic one for kind of a gray. And with the hake and with the wet and wet, we'll try to get a texturized effect and a softening, and hopefully we can get the illusion of boards with it. If not, I have another trick that might work for us. I don't really want to leave it white on the edge. I think if you're doing a church or something like that, that would be an interesting effect to kind of get that glow. So I'm just using the hake. The center area is wet, and I kind of showed you how I lifted up around the edges so I wouldn't get too much dispersion, but we didn't need to do that. You can see the dry brush texture and the wet and wet. Since we're looking straight at the barn, I'm not too concerned about perspective, so I'm letting it just go across. In fact, this side is way lower here than it is in the picture, but I kind of like it. It's just giving it that rundown character. So this is a mixture, like I said, of ultramarine and burnt sienna. Let me try to get it darker. That's one thing I have difficulty with. It's a very common, it's a great mixture. And I might be catching a little bit of that phthalo blue. I've been telling you how I had moved the ultramarine on my palette. I had scraped it up and moved it because it was too close to phthalo blue. I think I had caught a little bit. Just trying to mix a darker mixture. Sorry, I got a little sidetracked. So it's like a classic mix. Works great for buildings. And yeah, I just have a hard time getting it dark. Some people can mix it really dark. I'm just not quite sure how they're doing it. So Payne's Gray might make an appearance in order for us to get darks. Posey Gaines, he's a YouTube artist. He uses, I'm not sure if he's still using Indie Blue, and Indie Blue mixed with the earth tones gives him a really nice dark. I have that, but I'm trying to limit the palette to just the Ron Ransom palette. This Indie Blue, I'm not sure what companies make it. I believe mine is Da Vinci brand. I'm sure Daniel Smith makes it, but I don't really know who else makes it. It's not super common. Yeah, I don't think you'd find it in the Cotman line. You wouldn't find it in the Van Gogh line or anything like that. Lift up a little bit as if something's coming up front, as if a little bit of grass is moving. We could have texturized things as well. Let me switch to the rigger. Let me go. I'll go number 4 rigger. Number 1 would work just as good, but this one pulls up a little bit more paint and holds it for a little bit longer. Just going to chase that edge. Something that I learned from videos by Rick S. I always mention him, and I always mention that I am not good at pronouncing his last name. When I first started painting watercolor, I watched his paintings, and he did barns and buildings, and he would go along the edges. He would use this color combination, and he'd have variation in the dark tone rather than just having one straight dark line going. So if you don't know who I'm referring to, just check out Watercolor's Rick S on YouTube, and you'll find him, and it's just fantastic. He has a lot of good resources. He has a Facebook page that I like to share on, like the Friends of Rick S, and people share their works and talk about it. There was this one guy, if y'all are watching, you might know who I'm talking about if you post on that page. It was Alan Fizzle, something like that. And he posted every day beautiful paintings, I think from Australia or New Zealand, something in that area. And then I realized for a while he wasn't posting, and I did a little searching on him, and I saw the guy had passed away. It was pretty sad. Because it was, you would look and you'd say right away, oh, that's Alan. I'm just taking these darks, and placing the windows and the openings in the barns and whatnot. If the barn is on an angle and there's perspective taking place, the top line and the bottom line of the window is really important, and it helps you get the perspective. But since we're looking straight on, I'm not going to focus too much on that. This whole area down here is darker. There's the dark door, which I'm going to do, and then I'm going to do a little bit of dry brush, and I'll show you in a second, even though it's still wet and wet. And if you want, you could probably take a flat brush and just go in and put that shape in. You could also, what else can you do? You can use the hake for those shapes. So you have a lot of different variety. See, this is just taking the side, just put a little texture in. Side, and just putting texture in. And you could go around. If we didn't have that barn texture, the wood that we had gotten from the hake, we could have drawn some lines in and then sprayed it with the spray bottle, or sprayed the area with the spray bottle and then drew the lines in. That's another trick from Rick. That would help get wood effects. Let me do a quick dry off. Let's see. First I want to do that. Okay. Yeah, so we're actually nearing the end for this one. It's pretty simple painting, just a little exploratory, kind of shaking off the building cobwebs. The last one I did was, like I said, the restaurant, and then right before that the person's house that I had done. Currently doing a lot of portrait learning and practice, but I'm really trying to encompass everything. At this point, I'm doing watercolor, gouache, which is opaque watercolor, doing oils, pen and ink, and then subject matter. Of course, I always do landscapes, and so now we got buildings, the portraits. So all we're really missing is what, animals and still lives, and probably city scenes, things like that. There's probably a lot of stuff I'm missing, but you know, you only get one life, so take advantage of it. Practice, practice, practice. Have fun watching YouTube videos and exploring and learning stuff, but then go and practice and explore. Now, with this, we could call it done at this point, or we could add a little bit more pop in the background. So we'll do that in one or two spots. I don't want to do the whole thing. So we're going to get a green again. I have sap green on my palette, but I'm not going to use that. I just want to, like I said, make it so that you guys, if you're following along, which I encourage you all to do, have, you know, colors that you can use. So this is just lemon yellow being mixed with just kind of the gunk that I had. Let's put a guy here. I don't want to bring them all the way down because I want to give the hint that there's ground right there, and that helps sit the building in place. And I can mix just burnt sienna in this just to kind of darken it up. I could also get my ultramarine in there as well. Ultramarine and burnt umber just to get some semblance of a dark. You can put the dark down here for its shadow. It's kind of just looking at the contour, just leaving some spaces open, just adding a little more contrast, a little more color, keeping in mind that that line. You don't have to put that line in. Oh, I just splattered paint. You can use your fingers to move that around. Just gonna use my fingers to clean up that splattered paint. Then with this, it does feel like it's missing a little bit of foreground element right here, so we could put a little grass texture in. If this is of a barn that you actually know, so if you're playing around and you have a picture of a barn, it'd be kind of cool to put a little sign right there and maybe put the name of the barn or the location. That'd make a cool gift for somebody. Let me grab more lemon yellow. Oh, we did do that poppy color, so let's do that. Let me clean off that green. This is alizarin. You can put some in front of the barn to help it set back. Barns will often have fences attached to it. We can do those down the line. And we'll dry it off and we'll take a look. Okay, so there you go. I hope you enjoyed a simple, easy barn approach. Try it out, and we'll be back with kind of different approaches to it. All right, have a good day. Bye.